On a serious note, before some inquisitive mind wants to ask about Jermaine, I hope you understand I'm not going to speak about someone's academic situation in public. Like I told, I think, a couple of you guys that reached out to me that one night, if he was a non-qualifier, he never would have been admitted to school. Okay? So the SEC has policy against that. So, but there is something there that's being dealt with. But he's been practicing, and he's awesome. And just like all the other freshmen for the last 5 days, his head's been spinning trying to figure out why we defend how we defend. So it's all good.
Questions?
Yeah, rather than sit here and babble for 20 minutes, I'd rather just answer your guys' questions. I'm sure you guys have been sitting around with nothing to do for the last 6 months, trying to figure out what to ask me.
Frank, with that, do you anticipate a resolution sometime soon during the season on Jermaine?
It's not a decision that I'm in control of, so for me to give you an answer there,
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I find anything out, I'll let you guys know that it's, yay, nay, whatever. I don't know. It's something that's it's out of my control, and it's out of our campus control. So,
with 8 newcomers on the team, just how much of a challenge is that to have that much youth or guys who've first year in the program to be on one squad?
I was worried about that. 2 of the 8 being a grad transfer and Trey Campbell, and then a 2-year starter at George Washington and Jair Bolden. You get a couple guys that understand college basketball. So there's an understanding to how hard every day is, to not taking a day for granted, all those things, that sense of urgency that unfortunately most freshmen don't understand. And it's not their fault. It's just life. It's the way it works. But they learning's been what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say easy, because learning's never easy. They've been receptive to coaching and instruction and have embraced it. So it's allowed us to probably be further ahead from a lingo. I call it lingo because we all have our own little language to how we teach stuff, different schools, but to our lingo. To understanding our lingo, to being able to listen to instructions, corrections, and then go out on the court, and while the game's going 100 miles per hour, try to make the adjustment. It's been pretty good. It's the new guys have been fun, but I gotta, I sat here last year and I criticized it, and I'll sit here this year and tell you the opposite. Up to this point, that group of returners have been tremendous in helping those freshmen. Tremendous. They're all in a better place. The guys that, whether it's Chris, Hasani, Mike, they're in a much better place as far as themselves go, so they're more comfortable with helping. And Felipe and Justin are both in a completely different place than they were a year ago, so they're more comfortable with helping. So it's been pretty good.
Frank, obviously you had a planned hurricane relief game that didn't come to fruition. Any additional plans to donate the exhibition game with Augusta? Would that go toward that at all? Are there any other plans in place, but the first one didn't come through?
Yeah, I don't, not in stone, but those conversations have been held internally to try and figure out what can be done, because it's much needed. Just like Coach Williams expressed at his media day deal, I was extremely disappointed that we were not allowed to do that. somewhere, and it's crazy because I sit on the board of directors of the NABC. I'm very in tune with rules and changes and adjustments. I'm in a lot of those conversations, and somewhere along the lines, either my learning disabilities kicked in, I didn't take my medication. I don't know what it was, but I never heard when the ruling on that changed. But it was changed, the language. It was changed, and basically you're not allowed to file a waiver to play an additional exhibition game, which is why you had people contradicting reports whether we filed a waiver or North Carolina filed the waiver or not, or there was no waiver to file because why are you going to file a waiver that it's not going to be heard? No, but the conversations were had. We asked for permission, and when I say we, because it was both schools were united in this, and we're told don't waste your time. We're not going to approve it, basically. So it's disappointing because I think it would have been a great deal. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that we would have sold out the arena in Charlotte, no doubt. Not only do we have the North Carolina following, but even though a lot of people think that our fans don't pay attention to us, we have been top 20 in the country in attendance 3 years in a row. So our fans would come too. And it's not like we've been unsuccessful. Our fans like watching us play. So it's that would have been a great deal, and it would have generated a lot of money.
Coach, here in the back, I sensed a lot of enthusiasm in your previous answer about the newcomers. I've seen it on social media. There's a lot of excitement. Just what has you so pumped up for this season and this team's potential this year?
I'm excited every year at this time of year. I've never been one, Joe, to sit around and worry about what I don't have. I pay attention to the things that we do have, and I get excited about them. Then the season hits, and then you start playing games, and then you start trying to figure out what the real deficiencies are. Because, one thing is when you watch your guys every day against themselves, but then you got to play other people and other styles and other, and that's hard to mimic in practice because we're trying to teach our guys how we want to defend. So we have to spend a lot of our time teaching our defense, which then doesn't allow you to play offense against different kind of defenses. And, but it's, there's a learning curve with these guys that they've kind of accepted and been able to embrace and move forward. And, but it all gets back. I think the talent is good, like the A.J. Lawsons, the Keyshawn Bryants, the Cousinards, talking about some big athletic guards. I mean, Keyshawn Bryant has a dunk every day in practice that I just sit there and I'm like, how do you do that? I don't think I've ever had, including my high school days, a guy that is as explosive as Keyshawn is from attacking the rim and dunking balls. Bill Walker was probably, like I'd take it back. Bill was pretty good at that stuff. But AJ's 6'6" and great instincts and fast and, and then like I said, the two older guys that transferred in, they have an understanding of a sense of urgency, so their approach is real good every day. And Jair has and Trey, they've both been very willing to learn but be vocal at the same time that they're learning. So it's been fun, but it all gets back to your returning players, and that's the part. When you got a core of guys like we got that played so many minutes last year. 3 of which got major minutes in a Final Four game against Gonzaga, and you're talking about a core of guys that have played a lot of minutes and really understand how we do things and what's important. And so it's a better, we're all better because the returning players are in a better place.
Coach, Coach, along those lines, I remember last year you were talking about leadership. There was a lot of inconsistency there. Given that core group of returners, I guess you're more confident, more comfortable, and maybe the leadership this year, now that they've had a year, after the Final Four, to figure out, who's going to step up, who's going to lead this team, especially like Chris and, Hasani and guys like that?
Yeah. And all this is relevant until you start playing games. Then it changes because it's different, okay? They've been a lot better throughout the summer. They've been a lot better in preseason. Now let's see what happens once the game starts, because then once the game starts, winning and losing goes into the equation. Playing time, success, good game, bad game, all those things kind of start coming in. So it's a different dynamic that this locker room is going to handle a certain way compared to last year's team and the year before and so forth. All the teams are unique that way. So once that part comes in, then I can tell you exactly how the leadership will be for the year. Whether it's good, bad, is it getting better, whatever it may be. But for right now, they've been tremendous, and that's why the newcomers also are in a different place. And in defense to the returning guys that I wanted more from them last year, put yourself in their shoes. Come off a Final Four, and the guys that were the actual leaders in that locker room day in and day out were gone and not on campus. And now those guys that are back, they're getting all the attention and all the praise for how great they are. And then they're trying to figure out how to stay humble at the age of 19 and 20 and stay grounded with the understanding that now they have to get better and they have to help others while everyone's telling them how great they are. And, it's a part of learning. It's a stage of life that they had to go through, and I think they're better for it.
As far as we sat here a lot last year, and it seemed like you lamented point guard play a lot during games. How do you feel like the turnover that you've had on this roster has kind of transformed where that position and those positions are on the team?
Yeah, let's talk about a word that you use, because I tell you guys, I really do read and listen during the off season. I don't during the year, because I don't need to be consumed with other people's opinions that aren't part of the ride. But I consider you guys part of the team because you guys cover our basketball team. I don't like it when we're singled out as our roster turnover is different than anything else that happens around the country. It's par for the course, man. It's the culture that we're in right now in basketball. It existed. I don't know who covered baseball in here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but baseball usually, I think it's slowed down in the last couple of years, but they went through a time period there where they had 10, 12 transfers every single year. It's part of the culture, man. It's not unique to us to have roster turnaround, whatever those nice words mean. I wasn't educated to understand how to utilize fancy words and make them sound nice. When I use fancy words, I usually don't make them sound very nice. But you build a culture. You work every day to build what you want to be about. And kids in today's day and age, if you follow what I've been saying for 10 years, not for 5 years, not for 2 years, for 10 years, the culture in grassroots basketball is to transfer every single year. Transfer high schools, transfer AAU teams, and it was starting to filter into college basketball. Well, it's completely here now, and we've had 800 transfers for 4 years in a row, and it's unfortunate. I'd rather it not be that way. But it is what it is. You can't. I'm not ever going to be upset at anybody because they feel that they can have more success somewhere else. It's just we got to do what makes us happy in life, man. It's every one of us. It's not a one person thing. With all that said, Trey Campbell, who I mentioned his name earlier, let him say this. He rolled his ankle pretty bad. Exactly 1 week ago today. He hasn't practiced since last Monday. I hope that we get him by the end of the week in practice. He needs to be on the court. But he's without having played any games yet, I feel a lot better about our point guard situation this year. Like, for example, Gravett, I'm playing Hasani off the ball a lot more, which is what when he plays there, he plays freer, which allows him to play more aggressive and show off that athleticism that he has rather than be consumed with what decision to make. And then he plays slow and not as aggressive. But if I got to play Sonny at the point, he did it all of last year. Whether he did it good or bad or inconsistent, whatever, that's last year's story. He's better prepared for it this year. A.J. Lawson can play the point. T.J. Moss, who I didn't speak about earlier, he can play the point. They're different. A.J.'s more like when you're in some kind of aggressive defense, he's so fast with the ball and he's so big, he can pass it over people, and he's got a great eye for it. TJ does a better job right now at the point if you're playing against a team that doesn't get out and extend their defense as much, because he's got a great mind for the game, a great vision to pass. He's trying to make that adjustment against attack defenses where one guy is freakishly athletic and AJ, the other kid in TJ is what's the word I'm looking for? More cerebral, without trying to take away from what AJ does. AJ's pretty freaking smart too, but TJ's more cerebral. Like when TJ plays from 22 feet in, real productive plays. When he's at 50 feet dealing with pressure, he's trying to learn how to succeed there at the collegiate level. But I'm comfortable with the guys we got in place. Trey's been real good. I'm real happy with Trey right now.
Frank, what does Chris have to do to take that next step to build on what he did last year and become that truly dominant guy?
Yeah, like I spoke earlier about roster turnover being a wording that I don't like the way that our media, because here's what happens. Our media uses those words, so then our fans think that it's unique to our program, and it's not unique to our program. It's a cultural dynamic that exists out there right now. And with Chris, the words you use, and I'm not picking on you, but it's the whole way that he's been perceived locally and nationally coming into this season, where he can be totally dominant. I think that's more dominant. I don't know how much more dominant somebody can be than being a first-team all-league player in the best conference in college basketball, which has been proven over the last 2 years, and also being the defensive player of the year. That's pretty good. If he had that resume and he played at Kentucky or Florida, what would they be saying about Chris then? What would they be saying about our program then? From return 4 players, including this, and it's a rhetoric that I don't know. I don't know why it starts. I don't know where it goes. That doesn't mean we're better or worse, but it's a little misleading to our fan base when we do not give Chris the credit he deserves for how good he is. Now, directly to your question and your point, with him, the challenge is always basketball growth. He had to learn, I'm going to use the wording I've used with him since last season ended. Every basket cannot be a fist fight. It cannot be a fist fight, Chris. You get beat down, you end up playing bigger players, and now all of a sudden, on that night, they're not calling certain fouls, so you don't get to the foul line. We have to be able to still figure out, he's too good a shooter, to create separation so he can jump up and shoot the ball without it being a fist fight. He's been real good at that in preseason. Me just being who I am, everything's good when it's an empty gym. Anytime the lights come on and there's an opponent, we all tend to revert back to what we've done before. That's going to be his challenge when the games actually start and we're out there in front of the world to watch, is to not have to make it a fist fight every single time. He's gotten better with his fouling every year. it's got to take another step in the right direction this year. I think it will. I really do from watching practice. But it's that hard line that as a coach you try to balance when you're asking your players to be aggressive and go after the ball, and then you create that mindset, and then you got to tell them, no, stop. It's they got to figure out when and when not to. Like, perfect guy for him to learn from, which is what I've told him, were two guys that were his teammates, Carrera and Sendarius. When they became seniors, they both stayed on the floor for major minutes. They didn't foul, but yet they were amongst the league leaders in rebounding because they were so aggressive going after the ball. They were amongst the league leaders and better defenders in the conference because they were both first-team all-league players. Because they stayed on the floor while defending with a certain aggression, things like that. That's his next progression as a player.
Frank, I know that you like to challenge your guys on the schedule, and I know that a lot of those games are agreed 2 years in advance. Is it fair to say that you might have made this schedule pretty tough, anticipating you'd have a couple of kids that, for whatever reason, aren't here, and now are you maybe concerned about the ability of these 8 newcomers to handle that tough of a schedule?
Yeah, Dave, I don't worry about that. I think it was with you and Tommy and Jay the other day. We were on radio together, and I think Jay asked the question about the schedule. It bothers me when people insinuate that I try to make things easy. Nothing about my life has been easy. So the last thing I'm going to be comfortable is with easy. Everything for me is a daily challenge about not being good enough. And so when anyone insinuates that I'm trying to find the easy path to success, I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I was in that place. Last year's schedule was ranked number 27 in the country. So for anyone to insinuate that that was an easy schedule is a little, I'm just being honest with you, that's insulting to me. And I know it's insulting to our players. Now, with all that said, this schedule has some sexy names. We had some sexy names a couple years ago that are basketball names in the basketball community that had bad years. So all of a sudden, we didn't have the 27th best. That was Michael Carrera's senior year. All of a sudden, our strength of schedule wasn't 27. It was a little worse. It wasn't because we scheduled easy. We just scheduled some teams that didn't have a good year. But playing at Wyoming, that's going to be hard. At Michigan, just came off a national championship game. That's going to be hard. Providence and New England, they've played in 5 consecutive NCAA tournaments. It's going to be hard. Either Michigan or GW the next day, it's going to be hard. Virginia at home, number 1 overall seed that returns their whole team, every manager, every staff member, everybody. It's the whole. That's going to be hard. Clemson, I told you this the other day. Brad and I laugh about this. Neither of us ever get any credit for playing each other. That's going to be hard. They're a very good basketball team that's proven by being a Sweet 16 last year and basically returning their whole team. It's so from an experience and name standpoint, our roster seems to be real hard. And me personally, I hope it is, because that's when I feel comfortable. When I think things are easy, all you got to do is pay attention to me in a game. When we're up 30, I'm usually very uptight with everything. When we're down 10, I feel kind of a little bit more at home because I'm in a place where, you got to work to figure it out. That's all you got to do is pay attention to me. It'll tell you a lot about how I try to schedule.
Felipe and Justin were both in here talking about how they worked in the offseason, about becoming more physical, working the weight room, that kind of thing. What have you seen from them in practice so far that shows those results?
Oh, we're probably going to see it with A.J. Lawson this year. And I'll do one at a time for you, John. Justin was supposed to be in high school last year. Instead, he came to us. And I thought he did real good for a kid in that situation, for a team that won 17 games, for a team that we can sit here and play the if this then that game all we want, but we were like literally 4 or 5 possessions from being an NCAA tournament team, and he was a starter. And when he wasn't around, because he got sick one game when we lost to Mississippi State at home, and then he sprained his ankle and missed another game. Those 2 games, not having him in the lineup was a major problem for our basketball team. He's in a much better place now, just from a year of understanding, a year of maturity, the weight room, comfort level, just everything that goes with it. He's in a much better place. And then you look at Felipe and the same thing. I mean, Felipe is not a young man that's going to wow you with athleticism, but he's got a great basketball mind. He's got a skill level. Felipe is a kid that a year before he got here, his body looked completely different than it looked at any time last year. Now, a year after being here, his body is even in a better place. So he continues to make the adjustments physically so he can succeed playing at a high level. And that's, I was just talking to Emily, and we were talking about that these kids, specifically those 2, you're starting to see their personalities better because they're more comfortable with who they are. And it's no surprise that as they feel that way, their basketball's also getting better. They're both much better than they were at any time last year. Now, once again, that's in practice. That's Justin going up against Keyshawn Bryant, who's a freshman. Felipe is a little bit more realistic because he's going up against, Mike and Chris in practice. And so, I'm excited about those 2 guys. They've gotten to a place where they love it here, number one. That's getting back to the other thing. We spend too much time always wanting to speak about who doesn't play and who doesn't come back. We don't spend enough time speaking about why guys do play and the ones that come back, how happy they are. And those 2 guys are in a real good place right now. I'm excited for them. I'm actually, from watching them practice, I can't wait to see them against another team to see if that same confidence kind of goes on the court with them.
With a little bit of follow-up to that, with Felipe specifically, what do you envision? Like, what is his role? Is he a guy, because he talked a little bit about when he was here that he felt when he got here, he played from the outside in. Mm-hmm. And obviously last year you try to get a little bit more of that inside presence with him. Where is he there? You talk about him being comfortable. Is he comfortable with playing both sides of that now? And is that added to the strength? And what all goes on with that?
It's funny you ask, because all of a sudden now he's gotten where he's in practice. Last year, like, he'd be in practice and Chris would throw him around like a rag doll. And the whole deal with him was challenging him, like, put up a fight, man. You can't just get pushed around. And his inability to do that never allowed him to play with confidence so he can showcase his skill level. His skill level being one of shooting and passing. He's in practice right now. That ball leaves his hands, it's going in. And he's a lot more comfortable with battling around the basket and rebounding and getting shot attempts. We put too much attention on the ball going in the basket sometimes. It's the guys that set the screens and post up and seal and create the angles for other people to attack that create those avenues. Chris is real good at that. Kotsar's gotten better at that. Felipe has finally understood that, and now because he's comfortable with those things, all of a sudden he's having more success as a player from a skill standpoint. So what's his role? I don't know. I think that's the most overhyped, I don't. What's my role? To get better every day and help the guys around me get better every day. Sometimes I got to yell. Sometimes I got to hug. I've had to cry for both emotions. I've had to, I'm not big into, like, role, like this is what you do and this is what you don't do. You know what Chris's role is? Don't foul. That's his role. I'm not a big believer in all that. Now, if by role you mean like what shots or I'm real simple. Shoot balls that you can make. That means you practice it. Don't, like when I coach Beasley, he can make it from anywhere on the floor. So I never limited him where he could shoot from. Now, I had a guy named Denny Clemente, and Denny didn't like the guard. He just didn't like it. No one ever made him. I told him, I said, if you guard, I'll let you shoot the ball. And he said, you let me shoot this ball? I said, yeah, guard, but you got to practice that shot. If not, I'm not going to let you shoot it. So he practiced it religiously every day in the open court, coming at you under miles per hour, pulling up and shooting it. The following year, Jacob Pullen, first-team All-American, preseason, comes down and takes that same shot. I said, don't you ever shoot that ball again. But you let Denny shoot it. I said, he shot it. He practiced that every single day. You never practiced that one. Don't shoot it. And he got mad at me. I said, you can get mad at me all you want. I'm not going to let you shoot it. So I think that's where I got to be specific to roles with guys, is making them understand what they can and what they're real good at and what they're not as good at, so they can play through their strengths. But Felipe's got to defend at the rim. He's got to defend on the perimeter. He's got to run. He's got to rebound. And then he's a shot maker. He gives us a shot maker from when he's on the floor. We have to utilize that. Felipe's got a real good mind for passing and sees certain passes. We have to put him in a place where he can utilize that. And that creates confidence. What confidence means, he plays better. And sorry for the kind of long-winded answer there, but I'm not into pigeonholing people in life. I try not to do that. As a coach, I try not to do that either.
I guess you mentioned Hasani earlier about playing him a little bit more off the ball. Just how is he physically? I know we talked in the offseason about never being fully healthy after that injury last year. Just what have you seen from him, and do you kind of get that he's getting his quickness and his shot back from that?
Yeah, I don't ever tell players to play when they're hurt or judge who's hurt, who's not hurt. He was fully healthy. If not, he wouldn't have played. His mind wasn't healthy. His mind was wrapped up on his ankle and not having success. And when you deal with a real injury like he dealt with in the middle of conference play, and you don't get your repetitions in practice, now all of a sudden you go on the floor and you're guarding Colin Sexton. It's not easy to do. And then he's also trying to play the point because it's what he wanted to do. And now we're on a team where I had all the injuries at point guard, so it put even more pressure on him to do it. And then he's trying to manage all those things I just said, and he's got this 275-pound bear on his back. It makes it really, really difficult to regain confidence. But he was healthy down the stretch last year. Physically, mentally, he just couldn't let go of that moment. And he just struggled to get to a place of peace so he can be aggressive. He's in a good place right now. It's, mentally he's in a good place. He, like I said earlier, Colin, he's playing fast. He's playing aggressive. That's when when a player is engaged mentally, is the aggression that they play with. He's learned to come in the gym and spend some time shooting balls. It's that was not something that he was great at, and that's part of the growth process. I use Sindarius as the example for all our players. Like Sindarius, his freshman and sophomore year, his freshman year never did it. Sophomore year, he battled that injury that he kind of dealt with, and we had to manage his deal, and it was hard for him to come in a lot, but he still didn't feel comfortable coming in at night and just shooting balls. He started to realize it between sophomore and junior year because he has pride, and when you showed him his shooting numbers, if you look the other way, then you got no pride. Sindarius had great pride, so he would look at his shooting numbers, and I sit there and tell him, I said, you know what the NBA guys are going to say? He's a 30% shooter. I can't take a 30% shooter. Well, he started working at it, and guess what happens? The tail end of his junior year, ball started going in for him. He learned to keep working on it between junior and senior year, worked at it throughout his senior year, end the game, end the story. I mean, it's you know what he did his senior year. And Hasani, even though he saw it from Sendarius, he's never fully bought into it until this past summer. And just like Mike, with Mike, it was a major coaching. You know, you as a coach, you sit around and you spend a lot of time trying to help guys who, when the ball doesn't go in, to make sure technically they're sound. With Mike was just, I had to reach in like deep into my 30 whatever number of years to figure it out. It was all his hair. He's so consumed with that hair coming in his eyes, he couldn't see the rim. So we got him to cut his hair, and all the ball's going in. It's a major coaching move there with Mike. But that's the truth with Hasani. With the Mike, I'm joking, but that's the truth with Hasani. Just like Mike. Mike wouldn't come in the gym last year to shoot balls. You know, and I don't care how many times I showed him his stats, he wouldn't do it. You know, and I can't make him come in because you only get X number of hours. And if I do anything over that, then one of you guys will be writing that I'm this abusive personality, and, you know, we got a different animal. But they've learned to come in on their own. And all of a sudden, the ball's starting to go in for them more regularly. I hope it continues throughout the season.
From a broad sense, do you think that all the stuff that's being uncovered in the trials in New York is going to bring about a positive change for college basketball?
Joe, you look bored back there.
No, I just can't stand it like the young guys.
You're okay. I mean, you look like me in the middle of a game. I mean,
I'm listening intently. I just can't stand it.
Jesus. They don't say that in the Vista. You can tell I've had a lot of free time this. Oh, man. I'm curious, like everyone else, to see what's going to come about that whole situation. You know, I'm not into cheating. I'm not into it. I get the fact that back in high school there was huge articles and all that stuff came out that I was a big cheater. I'm telling you, I'm not a cheater. I'm not into that stuff. But I was responsible for what took place under my name, under my watch during that time period. And it's something that will be with me forever and ever, because not only did I live it, but it was my high school, my community. But as a professional, I learned a lot from that whole experience. And I'm not into cheating. I'm not into cutting corners. It's not who I am. It's not the way I want my last name represented, because the people before me worked real hard to make sure that that name was represented a certain way, and I've got to make sure I hold up my end of the bargain. I owe it to this university that's believed in me to stick with me, to make sure I don't embarrass them. So I'm not into cheating. I'm one of those I'm like, you know, Beeline said it his deal, get them out of the business. I think Izzo's been pretty adamant about, his stance in it. I'm not going to tell you I'm happy that it happened, because it's unfortunate that the culture that we've created at the grassroots level over the years permeated into college basketball. But we obviously all are in a moment right now where everyone had to take a step back, a deep breath, and take ownership, because it's not as broken as it seems to be, but there are some things that needed to be addressed and hopefully changed, fixed, whatever the wording you want to use there. And I hope this whole experience, just creates a situation where I don't want to say we go back to the starting line and start the race again, but we all learn from it, and hopefully, at the end of the day, people that are caught cheating, there's got to be serious repercussions to whoever it is. I don't care what your resume says. I don't care where you come from. You can be me, who has no college resume before summer 2000. Or you can be somebody that's, been in college for 40 years. It's just, there's no place for it. It's not right. I don't I don't run around. I'm not into like running around and blaming people for cheating and all that. The part that here's the reason why I'm kind of happy that it's been addressed. Not for anything other than, the people who cheat eventually get hit. I just want the punishments to be real. That's all I say. But now there's certain people I don't have to have conversations with anymore. Because when you're recruiting, you're forced to have conversations with a lot of people because you're in an information gathering business. That's what life is. In life, we're all gathering information so we can make decisions. We're forced to have conversations with some people that we don't want to really speak with. But you have to, so you can gather information. And from that standpoint, there's some conversations that hopefully we never have to have anymore. But, we'll see where it goes.
Frank, Mike talked about how that feeling of going to the Final Four 2 years ago, he's using that as motivation after what happened last season. As a coach, though, I'm interested in your philosophy, knowing that you don't have many guys still left from that team. Do you bring up that year, and if you do, how can that motivate the team, especially the younger guys that have never had that taste?
No, it's all that goes unsaid. They know that. The guys assigned to come play here, they know what the locker room they're walking into where it was at 18 months ago. They're aware of that. They've been here in the summer with Senderis and PJ playing pickup ball. Dwayne, they know the deal. Justin Mackey's around every day. They know the deal. They know what Chris and Mike did. And Hasani, those guys played like Chris obviously had a great NCAA tournament. But Mike and Sonny played major minutes in every one of those games, and so they know. That's that internal peer pressure that you create. Where I might use it as a point of reference is from having the courage, telling the young guys just believe, don't fight it, man, just believe. Don't. You got to believe. If you don't believe, it'll never happen, and use it maybe on moments that maybe we don't play as well as we need to, or lose a game that the world thinks is going to bring the end of the season. Oh, it's over. We're done. This team will never win again. That team went to a Final Four, and we had our moments because every team has its adverse moments. And from a teaching standpoint, to make sure that everyone stays the course, stays grounded, doesn't get caught up in the moment, and just continues to roll in the same direction. Stuff like that, definitely use it. But that you fight real hard to create that internal peer pressure. That exists already. And that's in place. Now it's my job to be the caretaker of that. Chris and them have to help me, but it's my job as the years continue to pass to be the caretaker of that, because the responsibility continues to grow every year from everyone in that locker room that the guys before have done so much.
Franco, you mentioned Alonzo Frank had a knee problem last week. Is that okay? And outside of Trey, are there anybody else fighting injuries right now?
Yeah, no, it's he had that knee. He had a knee procedure actually done a week ago today too. He's probably he's so big, man. Such a large human being. I don't, it's everyone heals differently. So it can be a 3-week thing. It can be a 4 to 6 week thing. We're a week removed. He goes in for his follow-up. I know he's walking no crutches and anything already, so he goes in sometime this week for his post-operation appointment kind of deal. So we'll get a read as to where the doctors think they're at. They're optimistic that it's not a lingering thing that's going to continue to go on. So it's up to the good man upstairs and how he heals. Because at the end of the day, whenever he starts banging that knee around again, got to make sure it doesn't swell. That's I guess the telltale sign is swelling. When something's not healed properly.
And also, looking back at the schedule, you guys got OK State in the Big 12 Challenge.
Oklahoma State. We got some.
Was that going to be the original game that was all our schedule, or was there another one in place that they put that in because of Mike's connection to here? Just how did that go about?
That's the league office. They make, obviously they don't consult with me. they make the decision who plays in that SEC Big 12 deal, and make the decision who plays where and who's in, who's not in. And I'm happy we're in. It's one of the great home court environments. I'm happy for our freshmen. They're going to go in and play in that building. You know, obviously, Mike and I have become real good friends over the last 6 years. You know, for somebody who I knew who he was, but we had never met, to know the way that he's loved around here. When I got here, to know the way that campus just loved him. After 6 years of building a friendship with him, it's clear as day why. It's one of the fine human beings that basketball's brought across my life. He's tremendous. I'm so happy. I'm kind of getting credit like he's part of my coaching tree kind of deal. You know, you're getting old when people start referring to you having a coaching tree. Are you kidding me? I've gotten big as a tree. But on that topic, I'm real proud. His success at Oklahoma State. You know, Brad goes on, becomes Coach of the Year his first year as a head coach. Fig at Austin Peay, first year at Austin Peay, Coach of the Year. That's why when I sit up here and I tell you guys that my staffs for the last 6 years, I've been telling you how good our staff is and you know, why they help us and why we have success. I'm not saying it because I'm trying to be a nice guy and pass on credit somewhere else. I'm telling you because it's true. I'm lucky. Those guys have been with me from day one at K-State, and then obviously they all came with me here, and some guys like Brad and Fig have moved on and had tremendous success coaching. You know, Mike, even though we were around each other here for 1 year, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's under my tree or whatever that means, but I take credit knowing that he's a guy that I've spent time with, that he's out there having unbelievable success, and he's going to keep having success. He's that kind of guy.
Last question, John.
Mike said playing 3v3 this summer really diversified his game and it allowed him to play positionless basketball. Just how much do you feel that has helped? Do you see that in the way he's practicing this past month?
You want the truth, or you want me to tell you what I would tell him if he said that crock of you-know-what to me in private? Like I would say anything else. Anytime you play for your country in any way, shape, or form, it's a plus. Playing in that 3-on-3, what it did is Mike's whole confidence standpoint started when last season ended, because he made a commitment to coming in the gym and working on his game. It's hard to be confident as a player and play positionless or whatever that nice word everyone uses now. Like Michael, was Michael Jordan positionless when he played? Larry Bird, Magic, weren't they positionless? That's why they're great players, you know. But it's become a popular word now. It's, you know, great players are great because they can do everything on the floor. Guys that can't do everything, then you got to kind of pocket them into what they can do a little bit. And last season ended, my biggest thing with Mike is like, Mike, you're just never going to have success as a player unless you learn to work at it. You're talented. You can play in the NBA one day, in my opinion, because of your size, your ability to run. He's got great footwork, agility, strength. But you have to work at it. You can't shoot 25% from the foul line. You can't shoot 12% from the three-point line. You can't shoot 40% on two-point shots and expect to be a pro on that. Those are things that you control. I can't coach you any better and help the ball go in the basket. You have to learn to work at it. And he did. And then that, playing for his country in the 3-on-3, gave him a platform, because he played 3-on-3 and then he also played for Estonia in the World Cup, World Championship qualifiers. Playing for his country, along with working on his game, has given him confidence. So now when he shows back up here in the summer, it's a different person. You're seeing a different personality. Like, I shouldn't say you. I'm seeing a different personality from him every day. Like, you can actually joke with him. In the past, he was wound up so tight because he was so worried about the ball's not going in. Well, he's at peace with it now because he's working at it, and the ball's going in. So, like, when was our last practice? Saturday. Saturday, he made a shot from the elbow. He didn't make a single shot Friday at practice. That's the first shot he made on Saturday. And I said to him, when's the last time you were in the gym shooting balls? He said, Wednesday. I said, think about that. You haven't missed a shot for 3 weeks. All of a sudden, yesterday and today, you're 1 for the 2 days. Get in the gym. He said, you're right. So that's where his biggest change has been. And Mike is one of those guys that can become a multi-talented player because he can pass. He plays off the dribble. He's 260 pounds, not 230, 260. He's a big man that can run and move. So he can guard on the perimeter. He can guard on the interior. The next step for him as a player is for that ball to go in the basket. That ball doesn't go in by mistake. You got to earn the right for the ball to go in the basket. And he's learning how to work at it, which is giving him confidence, which then is allowing him to play better.